revenue, see what the revenue is just for football. See, I don't know if you can work with Kathy Johnson about that. I know it's a big pot, but at least we'll look at that so we can anticipate if it's going to be any kind of real significant loss. It may not be.
How could you determine that if they all paid $5?
You wouldn't know because they could have paid $5 or they could have paid $15 and got
Right,
three
so
kids
how-
in for
you
free.
really
So
can't
we
determine
won't.
how that
I can just
happens.
let you know how much revenue was ticket revenue from football. That's the only thing I can tell you. And then you can play whatever assumption game you want with it.
If you're going to try, next year's a good year because there's 7 home football games, which is a large home year, so you will have a decent amount of revenue.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's true, it's gonna be more revenue. We can just see, I mean, you can take last year, it's gonna be hard to know because there are different state, you know, different, right. Well, this past year, you know, it was the first year here, it wasn't fully done, but I mean, that attracted more people. The year before, Papa Yoder, so I mean, there's no way to know, but I guess you can divide out, see how much it is per game, and we can compare then what we get this upcoming year if the new price passes and say, okay, well, we lost money or we didn't.
Well, even if you just went by the number of seats sold, not necessarily the revenue, but how many people actually attended. Can you do a count like that to see?
Yeah.
Just, you know what I mean, to see if it's more people attending, then your revenue's going to be up. If it's the same amount of people, it'd be better,
Right.
if you divide, I think.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
But I think it's a balancing act. You want to bring more people in and make it so people can, you know, have a community event. Okay, well, so we agree, we'll put it on as a motion and then we'll let the board vote.
I'll make the ticket price, we'll put down elementary, I'm just reading what I have. The elementary student with parent free and the middle school student with ID $4, the same as is written right now currently for high school ones. Then we'll work on a way to try to pre-sell them.
Sold in advance, not at the gate.
Right. It says within a year, so we'll try to get them done early. So if they show up at the gate, then it's going to be $5 because we're going to get the line through. So pre-sale.
Right, it would only be pre-sale.
Right.
Right. And so that everything sold at the gate would just be $5.
$5 or free if you're elementary.
Right.
That keeps the line moving, and we can try it for a year. But you'll have a good year anyway because, like you said, there's 7 home games.
And there'll be people coming since the stadium will be complete.
And concessions.
New concession stand, so. All right, thank you, Mr. Babb. Okay, the next item on the agenda is elementary class size guidelines, and I spoke with Dr. Brevard and Dr. Yurnell just through email, and we're going to talk about that on Monday night at the curriculum meeting. Dr. Yurnell felt that that was a better, more appropriate place for that discussion.
Yeah, the change for that is with the sister schooling, it changed the timeline, not the size of the classes, but it doesn't matter. We'll just go over that. I want to make sure that we're clear of that. So Mrs. Jarley and Dr. Yarnell worked that out.
I think that's a better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll discuss that Monday night. So, all right, and then the last item is the review of the 14-15 aquatics program, and Dr. Brevard.
I'm seeing Mr. Babb's head go from side to side, so I know he reached out again to try to get the information from Ryan. So we'll keep pushing for that, but at this point I'll send it out then. We always have an end of year report, but Ryan ended his work last week, and
Right.
even though he promised to get it to me, he doesn't know that I know where he lives. So we'll still hunt him down. To try
Right,
to
so
get that.
this is usually the meeting when we would discuss it, but because the aquatics director resigned last week, so we don't have that
Oh,
available.
he resigned.
Yeah, he resigned,
Oh, I
yes.
didn't know
He
that.
took a job up in Allentown. I think it's the same sort, so it's good for him, but I didn't get my report. So not good for
Didn't
him.
know that. You did? At a meeting?
Well, it was on the last,
Personnel.
it was on the last
I
personnel
thought you
report.
did.
Right. Yeah, so right now I believe there's just an interim person.
Correct. It's advertised, and I think the lifeguard is working with Dave to make sure that we continue the programs where people are, especially the outside programs, to keep it going. It usually winds down at this time of the year as they transition from indoor swimming to outdoor, but we got to make sure we're up and running for the start of next school year, so we're looking.
Okay, so that's all our agenda items. Is there any public comment?
Do I have to stand up here?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Robert Linden, West Rock Hill Township. How many paid events are at the stadium?
What do you mean by paid events?
How many-
Events that
how
people
many
need to pay to
events
enter?
do you have that require payment?
From the list, actually I can have Mr. Babb answer that. I know that there's a time of day that's involved as well, so it's not just at these stadiums. So Dave, do you want to answer that?
We charge for the following athletic events: football, boys and girls soccer, boys and girls basketball, wrestling, boys and girls volleyball, field hockey, and boys and girls lacrosse for their night games if they play at night.
How many
How many total?
total days? Yeah.
I can't give you the exact number. I'd have to tally it all up. You know, I can give you a round number.
Good.
Like, usually it's 6 football games. Soccer games, there's usually at least 3 for each boys and girls. Basketball, it's usually around 10 for boys and girls. Wrestling's usually around 3.
What Mr. Allen had presented, and I know he's not here, but I was really impressed with what he's looking to do, and I think if we can encourage that across the other sports, that would be a really great thing. When you look at all of the national sports, and the poor role models that we have right now, to encourage those values in the kids in the high schools now, so that when they grow up, those values are already instilled in them. I think that's a great thing. So I just wanted to comment on that. Thank you.
I agree, thank you.
Why do you guys turn this off here? Hello? All right, I'm going to just talk really loud.
Sorry, I just turned
It's all right. My name's Chris Littman, Bedminster Township. Hey, one of the reasons I came tonight is I saw on the agenda that we're going to talk about a ski trip, and I noticed it's not on the agenda. Any reason why it's not on the agenda, or why we didn't discuss it tonight when it wasn't on the agenda?
It's for next year. We always talk about those trips in September, because the thing is, there's more than just that ski trip. There's a normal, the one that goes up to Killington. So they should be done at the same time as September. I talked to Mr. Plowa, and there's plenty of time for the ticket prices, the plane, if they're going to have to fly, but it should be presented at the same time that the regular ski trip is presented. So I told them to wait till September when they're normally done. So it was me.
Okay, so it usually costs of plane trips, we know if you buy them further in advance, they're a little cheaper, right?
Not September, when they're planning on going in February. That's plenty of time. His concern was the price of the rental cars when they go out there, but they go up and down. My wife does this every other year in the same place, so they go up and down. So I told him, I said, there's enough time to do that. If the board makes their decisions, usually we get those approved in September. They're always pretty good about getting all the overnight trips in early that the high school wants to do. The Tom Nonaveller's bonding trip for the baseball, I mean, they all get in early, so that's plenty of time to get that done.
All right, so understand this, we're just going to go till September, and that's when activities is going to discuss it next,
Correct.
and then we'll go to a vote to the board?
In September.
Okay.
With the other trip that they're proposing for Killington.
Right, which is the trip they've always done.
Correct.
So this is something new.
Correct.
All right. All right. You don't think it would need, a trip like that would need more time?
If they're going in February, that's plenty of time.
They're traveling further than they've ever been
Our kids that
before.
went to the cheerleading thing got their trip approved in September, and they were able to go, and they had to raise some money, and that was actually a school group. He just said it's not necessarily the ski club. It's going to be some kids that are interested in going. So it's a much bigger group that's going to Killington that they take up every year. So this is going to be more select. He told me somewhere between 12 and 15. It's not like where my niece goes, where they actually have a ski team in Colorado. We don't have that in Pennridge.
Gotcha. Mr. Plow was ready to present this tonight, though?
Was he ready to present tonight?
Yeah.
He may
That's all
have.
on the agenda, so.
Correct. But I took it off.
For any reason
I just
besides?
explained everything.
Okay.
The other-
Because-
We also had a time constraint, although that has gone because we did have a time set for another meeting following this, and that was canceled this afternoon. So that was also the concern, was the time, and we think the things that we had on the agenda took a while, so that was part of the issue as well.
So is it a time constraint that we're just going to push off another 4 months? Correct?
But
That's
I
how I
think
understand it, right? That's what you told
The
them?
correct time to present this is in September.
Okay. Because we'll be able to buy the tickets the same price, right?
Well, I believe if you look at articles, when you look at traveling, they say about 100 days out is the best time to buy a plane ticket.
Okay. I think we should also teach our kids to try to plan in advance too. So I think it's best if, start now, you know? So
You're
just my
missing all
opinion.
the kids that will be ninth graders next year too. So they would not even be in the high school for a high school trip.
From my understanding, I have a daughter in 8th grade that is a part of the ski club. So maybe she would know about it. Do they not do ski club in middle school? Thank you.
All right, we are adjourned, and we, am I doing public reviews there?
If you don't mind.
Okay, so Mr. Deming's not here, so I will call the Policy Review Committee meeting to order. Did you adjourn? Yes, I did, I just said we're adjourned.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. So we're adjourned and starting the next meeting. So, any comments from the public on agenda items?
I just want to know, I do have to run up, can you explain what booster clubs and what policy 915 is real quick?
Oh, yeah, if that's your question, so we can just talk about that if we go right into it, if that's your
Yeah.
question.
That'd be great.
Okay. Do you want to
Yep,
explain?
I'll be glad to. There are two policies that are up for the second reading. The board has already gone through this process in the March meeting, if you remember. Actually, we've been working on the Booster Club and parent organization policy for probably like a year and a half at this point. So we finally have we made changes so that we made it easier for the parent groups to be able to do their end-of-year financial reportings. I think that this was originally proposed to make it easier for them so they wouldn't have to feel obligated to go out and hire a CPA to do their audit work. So it basically the guidelines are to deal with, you know, how they're approved, what it takes to be recognized by the board, because the board does give them access to our kids for fundraising, access to the building for free for their meetings. So there are expectations that they comply with Title IX, that they do not discriminate, that they're actually serving the best interests of the kids, that they are advancing the issues and directives of the school district as well, how they operate their fundraising activities, so they are approved at the building level, and then also those that need to be approved at the higher level to make sure someone's looking at it. They usually come to me. There's a reporting requirement, so at the end of the year, every booster club or PTO has to submit to their principal, or in this case, Mr. Babb and Mr. Bone at the high school, look at the review, the expenditures to make sure that what they said they were raising money for, they actually expended on those goals and met that, and they just have to do an end-of-year financial report for that. I think that's mostly it, because when they do that, then there are, you know, the board does approve them, and we actually then are a sponsoring agency, allow them access to what's going on. So this has been reviewed by your solicitor, and the goal was to get this done and in place for the start of the 2015-16 school year. So that's the one policy.
The only changes, it doesn't seem like there's, I mean, this policy's already in place, and there's just a couple wording changes.
Correct. There were some wording changes that actually had required for a CPA audit, and in the last discussion with the board in March, they decided that if they could meet the financial requirements as proposed by, you know, and stay within compliance with the law, that they don't need to do that. There are some groups, understand, that will hire somebody. Some of them have the luxury of having a CPA that's a member of the organization that will do that pro bono. But the concern was we don't want them raising an extra $2,000 just to have a CPA do an audit, because they're supposed to raise money and put it into the best interest of our kids.
I don't see that change, I don't see the one change highlighted, that one from superintendent.
Yeah, that's all I see.
I just,
Yeah, that's the only one that's left there is...
but I don't know that we ever actually agree, I mean, we put that question forth about who's going to pay, but I never heard that anything come back out from them. Did it?
Yeah, I can't remember. It came up at a meeting,
Yeah.
and it was on there, and
It
then...
was bold, and we decided to take it
And it
out.
was
That's why it's
taken
not
out.
there, because that was not part of the original policy. That was part of a change, and we removed that. The only change in here is that the request goes to the superintendent designee, not specifically to the business administrator, because it would normally come through this committee.
I remember the discussion, I
Correct.
just didn't remember the resolution. I'm
Correct.
fine
all accounts are paid for at the end of the year, that there cannot be a negative balance in any school for any account for a student. So if they leave, it's got to be taken care of, and all accounts have to be paid in full in the June 30th of the current school year, just like it says there, or at any time the student withdraws from the district. So there are students that, that I know that principals raise money for and try to help out if they have trouble doing that, but at the end of every year, everything has to be cleared, and that's part of the new federal regulation, and obviously we have to follow federal regulation, so that is the only change in there, and that's just basically from the federal law. I told Gina she didn't need to be here, because it's nothing big except that what the law is requiring, so I hope that was okay. And that's it.
Any questions about those three? Let's see. Yes, so we're back to comments from the press and public.
Can I ask a question? Jackie Fruta from Dublin. One thing that came up at the parent superintendent meeting was that TB test, the nurse that was talking about that. She was saying that we needed, does our guideline require an original copy? Because her issue was that even though she has an annual test, Children's Hospital would not release an original. So you're saying proof that you got the TB test, does that have to be an original?
I would have to
What she
find
gets.
out from her